In the bustling neighborhood of Eastwood, where modern high-rises shadowed over quaint old houses, Mrs. Eloise Harper lived quietly in a charming, ivy-draped apartment building that seemed almost forgotten by time. At 78, Eloise was as much a fixture of the building as the antique chandeliers in the lobby, known for her sharp wit and the mysterious aura of a bygone era. Little did the residents know, the gentle old lady had a secret that was deeply intertwined with the very walls that housed them. The conflict began when a new landlord, Mr. Thomas Beck, acquired the building. Ambitious and unsentimental, Thomas saw great potential in renovating the old structure into luxury apartments, a project that required a clear slate, meaning no current tenants. His first move was to issue eviction notices, citing extensive renovations as the cause. Most tenants grudgingly accepted the situation, but Eloise, with nowhere else to go and a stubborn streak a mile wide, refused to budge. One crisp autumn morning, as leaves rustled across the cobblestone pathways of Eastwood, Thomas personally visited Eloise to persuade her to leave. However, he underestimated the elderly lady's resolve and her deep ties to the building. Eloise invited him in with a deceptive smile, her eyes twinkling with secrets yet to be revealed. As Thomas stepped into her world, filled with vintage furniture and black and white photos of the building dating back decades, he was about to discover just how formidable his seemingly frail tenant could be. The stakes were not merely about business or renovations, but about legacy, belonging, and the hidden truths that lay buried under layers of history and dust. Eloise was ready to defend her home, armed with more than just memories. She held the key to a revelation that could turn the tables entirely. Eloise Harper had lived in the Eastwood building since she was a young woman. The building itself, constructed in the early 1900s, was a gift from her late father, a successful real estate developer who believed deeply in the value of community and legacy. Eloise inherited not just the building, but also her father's values, seeing the property as a living monument to his memory and principles. Over the years, she cared for the building with a personal touch, knowing every nook, cranny, and every tenant's story. As time passed, the world outside the walls of the Eastwood building transformed. The quaint neighborhood gradually gave way to sleek modernity. Yet, inside its walls, Eloise preserved a slice of the past, maintaining the original architecture and choosing tenants who valued the building's character and history. The tenants, from young artists to elderly retirees, formed a tight-knit community, often gathering in the large, sun-drenched lobby to share stories and support one another. Mr. Thomas Beck, on the other hand, was a stark contrast to Eloise. A recent MBA graduate, Thomas viewed real estate through the lens of profit margins and investment returns. He had made a name for himself in the city by flipping outdated properties into high-end commercial spaces. When the opportunity arose to purchase the Eastwood building, he saw it as a goldmine, an old gem that needed polishing to fit the modern landscape of the city. Supporting characters in the neighborhood included Mrs. Jensen, the building's longest-standing tenant after Eloise, who ran a small sewing shop on the ground floor. Her friendship with Eloise was built on decades of shared experiences and mutual respect. Another notable character was Michael, a young artist living in the attic studio, whose vibrant murals across the city had started to gain attention. Michael looked up to Eloise as a grandmother figure and often turned to her for advice on life and art. The conflict between Eloise and Thomas reached deeper than the surface-level disagreement over the eviction notice. For Eloise, the building was a bastion of community and continuity in a rapidly changing world. For Thomas, it represented a career-defining project that promised to catapult him into the upper echelons of the city's real estate developers. As Thomas embarked on his campaign to vacate the building, he encountered unexpected resistance not only from Eloise, but from other tenants who were inspired by her resolve. They organized meetings in the lobby, strategized resistance, and shared their stories with local media. Thomas found himself not just battling an elderly lady, but an entire community rallied by her determination. One evening, as Thomas reviewed his legal strategies, he stumbled upon a faded photograph in the local archives, showing a young Eloise with her father at the building's inauguration. The image struck him, the young, hopeful eyes of Eloise reminding him of his own entrepreneurial dreams. This moment of empathy cracked his resolve slightly, leading him to question the human cost of his ambitions. The backdrop of the story is thus a tapestry woven from personal histories, architectural heritage, and the clash between preservation and progress. As Eloise prepares to reveal her deepest secret, that she owns the building, the stakes are more than just legal or financial. They are about the essence of what makes a place truly a home. The pivotal event that catalyzed a dramatic shift in the story occurred during a heated confrontation in Eloise's apartment, where Thomas had arrived to deliver the final eviction notice. He was determined to begin renovations immediately, assuming that the elderly Eloise would ultimately relent under the pressure of legal and financial threats. However, Eloise had other plans, deeply rooted in her conviction and her hidden ace card. As Thomas articulated his final warnings, confident in his legal footing, Eloise calmly walked over to an antique mahogany desk that had belonged to her father. From a well-worn leather folder, she extracted a stack of documents, old and yellowed with age, but legally binding. With a steady hand, she presented them to Thomas, her voice firm and unwavering. "These are the original deeds and my father's will," Eloise announced, her tone imbued with a quiet strength that seemed to fill the room. "According to these documents, I am the sole owner of this building, and I have never transferred that ownership." Thomas's confident demeanor faltered as he took the papers, his eyes scanning the legal jargon that confirmed Eloise's claim. The room seemed to spin as he realized the gravity of his oversight. He had assumed control over a property without fully verifying the current ownership, a rookie mistake with profound implications. This revelation marked a clear before and after in the narrative. For Eloise, it was the moment she shifted from a defensive position to one of power. For Thomas, it was a stark wake-up call about the value of diligence and respect in his dealings. This incident not only halted the eviction process, but also set the stage for a deeper understanding and negotiation between the old guard and the new ambition within Eastwood's community. With the revelation of Eloise's ownership, the dynamics within the Eastwood building and between Eloise and Thomas changed dramatically. Thomas, realizing his significant oversight, was forced to reevaluate his approach. While he could have attempted to contest the will or find legal loopholes, the shock of his discovery and the embarrassment of his mistake prompted a more introspective response. He began to question the aggressive tactics that had marked his career thus far and consider the implications of his actions on the lives of real people. Eloise, empowered by her position, did not simply rest on her legal laurels. She recognized the opportunity to not only protect her home, but also to advocate for a model of development that respected the building's history and the community's needs. She proposed a meeting with Thomas to discuss a potential compromise that would allow for modernization without displacement. The community, energized by Eloise's victory, rallied to support her vision. Mrs. Jensen and other tenants organized community forums to discuss the building's future. These meetings were vibrant and sometimes contentious, as ideas clashed and visions competed. Michael, the young artist, offered to design murals that would integrate the building's historic charm with contemporary art, symbolizing the potential fusion of old and new. Meanwhile, Thomas faced challenges from his investors who were anxious about the delays and the public relations issues that Eloise's resistance had stirred. They pressured Thomas to resolve the situation swiftly and profitably, reminding him of the financial stakes at play. Thomas found himself caught between the demands of his financial backers and his growing understanding of the ethical dimensions of his work. As the negotiations between Eloise and Thomas commenced, both parties brought their concerns and visions to the table. Eloise, with decades of experience in preserving the building's character, insisted on maintaining affordable rents and respecting the architectural integrity of the structure. Thomas, equipped with modern business acumen and a fresh perspective, suggested innovative ways to increase the building's value and attract new tenants without uprooting the current residents. The tension escalated as the deadline for the investment group's financial commitment approached. Thomas needed to secure a viable plan that satisfied both his investors and the building's residents. The discussions were intense, with each meeting extending late into the night, as both sides delved into architectural plans, financial models, and legal agreements. Throughout this period, Eloise demonstrated a strategic acumen that surprised many, including Thomas. She negotiated with a sharp eye for detail and a deep understanding of legal and financial implications, challenging Thomas to match her depth of knowledge and commitment to the community. Her resolve was tested repeatedly as she navigated the complex interplay of business interests and community welfare. On the other hand, Thomas experienced a profound transformation. The more he engaged with Eloise and the residents, the more he appreciated the complexity of balancing development with heritage preservation. His views on real estate development began to evolve, influenced by Eloise's passion and the community's spirited engagement. This internal conflict between his ambition and his emerging conscience added a layer of personal growth to the business challenge. As the final meeting before the investment deadline loomed, Thomas and Eloise prepared to present a joint proposal to the community and the investors. This proposal was a testament to their collaborative effort, embodying a vision that respected the building's past while looking forward to its future. The outcome of this meeting would not only determine the fate of the Eastwood building but also signify a new chapter in their professional and personal journeys. On the eve of the crucial meeting with the investors and the community, tension reached its zenith. The Eastwood building's grand lobby, usually a place of tranquil gatherings, transformed into the stage for what would be a pivotal confrontation in the building's storied history. Eloise and Thomas, having worked tirelessly to meld their visions into a cohesive plan, presented their proposal with a mix of anticipation and apprehension. The plan included thoughtful renovations that preserved the building's historic essence, the introduction of community spaces designed to foster interactions among tenants, and initiatives to integrate green technology, a balance of past and future. As Eloise articulated the importance of preserving the building's soul, her passion was palpable. She spoke not just as the owner, but as a member of the community, invoking memories of past gatherings, the laughter and stories that had echoed through the hallways, and the personal significance the building held for so many. Thomas took the floor with a clear sense of changed purpose. He detailed the financial and structural aspects of the renovations, emphasizing how these changes would enhance resident life while ensuring financial viability. He spoke of his initial vision and how his interactions with Eloise and the tenants had profoundly shaped his approach, turning a mere business endeavor into a personal commitment to ethical development. However, the investors were not easily swayed. They questioned the profitability of maintaining affordable units and the return on investment with the proposed green technologies. Their skepticism was a stark reminder of the financial realities pressing down on the project. The community's response was equally intense but from a different angle. Residents expressed fears of displacement, despite assurances of rent stabilization, and concern over the building's changing character. They grilled Thomas on specifics, their questions sharp and informed, reflecting the engagement and education efforts Eloise had championed. In this heated atmosphere, Eloise's leadership was tested as she mediated between emotional residents and skeptical investors. Her deep connection to the building and its people enabled her to argue convincingly for the social value of their collective proposal. The climax of the meeting came when a longtime resident, an elderly poet known for her reclusive nature, stood up. She recited a poem about the building, encapsulating its history and the lives it had sheltered. Her words, poignant and powerful, seemed to momentarily unite everyone in the room, reminding them that at the heart of all the financial figures and architectural plans were the human lives that gave the building its true value. Moved by the poet's words, and influenced by the evident passion and unity of the community, the investors requested a recess to reconsider their stance. Thomas and Eloise exchanged a look of cautious hope. This was the most critical juncture, and the outcome would define not only their futures, but also the legacy of the Eastwood building. As the recess dragged on, the tension was palpable. Thomas paced the back of the room, while Eloise comforted anxious tenants, her calm demeanor a steady force in the storm of uncertainty. The future of Eastwood hung in the balance, the weight of history and hope mingling in the charged air of the grand old lobby. After a tense, hour-long recess, the investors returned with a decision that would shape the future of the Eastwood building. Influenced by the community's passionate plea and the potential for positive publicity that an ethically driven project could bring, they agreed to back the renovation plan with some adjustments for cost efficiency. The agreement marked a significant victory for Eloise and a profound career shift for Thomas. Together, they had managed to turn a conflict into a collaboration that promised to redefine the meaning of real estate development in their community. This compromise also demonstrated to the investors the value of integrating community input into business models, potentially setting a precedent for future projects. In the days following the meeting, Thomas worked closely with Eloise to refine the details of the project, ensuring that each decision reflected both the investors' requirements and the community's needs. Their partnership, founded on respect and mutual growth, became a model for how developers and property owners could work together to achieve balanced outcomes. The residents of Eastwood, initially wary, began to see tangible signs of the promised changes. Scaffoldings went up and renovations began, but with careful attention to minimize disruption. Community spaces were designed as promised, and green technologies were integrated, enhancing the building's sustainability. Eloise, once seen as merely a holdout against progress, was now celebrated as the guardian of the building's legacy. Her relationship with the tenants deepened, her role as a leader solidified. For Thomas, the experience was transformative. He had entered the project driven by profit and left with a deeper understanding of his social responsibility as a developer. As the project progressed, the building not only retained its historical charm, but also gained modern functionalities, becoming a symbol of how tradition and progress can coexist harmoniously. As the renovation of the Eastwood building neared completion, the transformed space emerged as a beacon of community-driven development. Eloise Harper, once the quiet keeper of her father's legacy, was now celebrated as a visionary who preserved the soul of Eastwood while steering it into the future. Her deep-rooted love for the building and its community had not only saved her home, but had also inspired a new approach to urban development. Thomas Beck, whose career had begun with a focus on profit, found his perspective irrevocably changed. Working with Eloise had taught him the importance of community in development projects. He adopted this new ethos in his future endeavors, promoting ethical practices that considered long-term community impacts. The Eastwood building itself became a symbol of successful cohabitation between old charm and new technology, its residents thriving in the upgraded but familiar environment. Community events in the new spaces brought residents closer, and the building's story attracted local media attention, serving as a case study in numerous urban planning discussions. In the end, Eastwood stood not only as a structure of bricks and mortar, but as a living testament to the power of empathy, collaboration, and respect in shaping the spaces we live in. The story of the Eastwood building is more than just a tale of renovation. It's a profound lesson in the power of empathy, collaboration, and respect for history in shaping our communities. Eloise Harper and Thomas Beck showed us that when property owners and developers genuinely engage with their communities, they can transform old spaces in ways that respect both their historical significance and the needs of current residents. This transformative journey at Eastwood highlights the vital role that listening and genuine partnership play in urban development. It challenges us to think about how we, too, can contribute to making our own communities more inclusive and respectful of both heritage and progress. Let's take inspiration from Eloise and Thomas's story to advocate for development that honors our past while building for our future. Reflect on the spaces in your community that could benefit from such collaborative efforts. How can you become an advocate for thoughtful and inclusive development? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Do you know of similar stories where communities have successfully balanced modern needs with historical preservation? What actions can you suggest or implement to promote such outcomes in your area? Subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories, and join the conversation on how we can all play a part in crafting spaces that truly reflect and respect the diverse histories and needs of their inhabitants. Together, let's push for developments that not only rebuild but rejuvenate, respecting the past while preparing for a sustainable future.